Welcome, Star Warriors. This is going to be a bit of a different video today. A few days ago I said that I hadn't taken part in any of the online debates or discussions because I didn't feel they were worth my time. I felt that they were a bit contentious and stuff like that, so I didn't want to take part. Anyway, that sort of changed a little bit recently, where I did have an interaction with a couple Star Wars fans who had different opinions than I did, and so I thought I'd talk a little bit about what we discussed. And this didn't turn nasty or contentious, mainly because I didn't allow it to. People did, try to put words in my mouth, and they did raise straw men to try and, I guess, get me to argue with them or something. I guess that's what that was. But most people don't know how to debate, so maybe it wasn't on purpose. I don't know. Anyway, they don't know how to make logical arguments usually, so they end up, addressing things that you never said and confusing the issue to make their point or whatever. Anyway, there was a video I was watching about someone's review of The Last Jedi, and I made some statements that some people didn't agree with in the comments section. And I guess it was mostly about Luke Skywalker's death and how they could have kept Mark Hamill around to make cameos. It would have made a lot of people happy. It would have brought in more money for Disney, so it would have been all around good for business. I don't really see too much point in his death, although I don't necessarily in itself disagree with him dying. I could have been perfectly okay with his death if the character had been treated right, but I don't feel that he was. Anyway, this first guy who addressed my comment made the statement that they didn't want Luke for more cameos. They wanted to move past Luke. And I felt that in that statement, this guy wasn't very contentious at all, but I felt that he's sort of limiting the meaning of words there, where he's sort of implying that in order to move past Luke, Luke has to die. In order to move past Luke, Mark Hamill can't make cameos in Star Wars anymore. I think that's a entirely false premise, an unintelligent mode of thought. Whoever thinks like that probably shouldn't be making movies that, studios are spending $250 million on to make, because it's terrible for business. And it's kind of like I've just heard so many excuses from filmmakers these days for why fans don't like their films. And usually they're putting it on the fans and stuff like that. But there was a time when fans didn't complain so much, and partially that was because they didn't have an outlet like the internet where any Joe Blow can have a voice or whatever. But partially is because movies weren't so depressing. Fun movies that were supposedly or usually fun weren't done in such a depressing way. I mean, you take a look at any of the past DC films for the past 4 or 5 years or whatever it's been, and they're depressing as hell. Superman is this just this apathetic guy who would rather not be saving people. You can say that's a bold take on the character, but to me, just watching these montages where he's pulling a boat and he's having it's not like he's having a hard time pulling the boat, but you can just see that the weight is weighing this guy down of the public response to him. And I've just never seen a Superman like that in my life. And now you've got Luke Skywalker who disappears from the galaxy and lives as a hermit, and he's not really living as a hermit for the betterment of the galaxy, really. I mean, Sure, he made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. But it's not like this character had never made mistakes before, you know? I mean, he knew how to handle his mistakes. And it's kind of like he just unlearned how to, all his problem-solving skills that he had developed over the first 3 films in the Star Wars movie, of Star Wars saga. Anyway, I guess it was that guy's opinion that Luke was too big for Star Wars, and the Star Wars couldn't move on unless they killed off Mark Hamill's character. You know, which I think is a total ridiculous premise. But then next, a totally different guy put in his 2 cents, and he was sort of the guy that was, you know, strawmanning me. It seemed like anyway, he was trying to push a confrontation or something like that. From the get-go, he was calling Star Wars fans whiny bitches, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, I just addressed that right out. Everyone complains about something. There's going to be something you don't like. This guy doesn't like the fact that Star Wars fans are complaining, obviously, and so he's complaining about them. Well, how does that make him any less of a whiny bitch, you know? And then I just moved the conversation along, saying, well, you know, there's a lot of people who started watching this new trilogy expecting to get a better showing from characters like Han and Luke and Leia and stuff, and Disney Lucasfilm just decided to make those characters depressed characters, you know, and it's kind of like they're throwing out everyone who was a fan of those characters from way back in the day. They're throwing them to the wayside and saying, we don't need you guys anymore. You're old. You're depressed. You know, get out of here. Star Wars isn't for you anymore. So, of course, the movie's going to get major backlash from those people. I mean, if Disney didn't want me watching, they could have just said, hey, we don't want you watching. This is going to be for a movie for a younger generation. You guys buzz off. That would have been better for me. But then this guy starts talking to me as if I'm attacking him for liking the film. You know, he says something like, well, I like the film. What if everyone's not someone from the 80s and the 70s, and they weren't there for the original Star Wars trilogy? And I just sort of diffused it and said, I have nothing against people who liked the movie. All I'm saying is I don't want to feel unwanted by the Star Wars franchise, and if they feel the need to make me feel unwanted, then I'm just not going to spend my money on it, you know. And here's why I say that. I'll take it back to The Force Awakens with Han's character, the way they portrayed him. I mean, here was a guy who left his wife to fight their son. Okay, he left his wife all alone to fight their son. She was the one waging the resistance against Kylo Ren. Okay. He went to go become a smuggler? Really? Han Solo. I mean, the guy regressed to what he was before A New Hope started. Fast forward a couple years to The Last Jedi, and Luke left his sister alone to fight against her son. I mean, this is a pack of repressed and depressed characters I would rather not watch. You know, so of course I feel like this trilogy is giving me the middle finger, you know, and all I'm asking for is for better representation of iconic characters. You know, I mean, these characters put this franchise on the map. I don't see why they need to be mishandled in order to make new characters look good. Here's what I'm saying. If Disney wasn't going to portray Han, Luke, and Leia in a more true way, there was no reason to use them. You know, you didn't see very much difference in the Obi-Wan characters between the trilogies. You know, Obi-Wan wasn't this defeated old man in Episode 4. He didn't take any convincing to go do what was right and fight the enemy. All of a sudden, Han and Luke are extremely melodramatic and everything. I guess when all is said and done, there are going to be those people who gush over Star Wars movies no matter what happens on screen. You know, they're gushing over Star Wars just to gush over Star Wars. And if someone's going to be like that, that's fine. But then to sort of call anyone who has a dissenting view a whiny bitch, you know, I mean, I'll hesitate to call the guy a troll. I don't know if he was trolling or not, but it's just, you're going to find unreasonable people on both sides. Thankfully, I haven't run into any of the racists or misogynists that are said to be out there, which I know they are out there. But yeah, I probably won't be engaging too much in Star Wars The Last Jedi debate in the future. But that's it for now. Thanks, guys, for listening. See you next time.